It was the kind of night when the air felt thick with mystery. Adamu, a young man from the bustling town of Amodu, had only planned to take a shortcut home through the bush path. The main road was too far, and he didn't want to get home late. But as the full moon hung low in the sky, something strange happened. A faint, rhythmic drumming echoed from the distance. At first, he thought it might be a festival or someone celebrating, but the sound was unlike anything he'd heard before. Against his better judgment, he followed it. Adamu pushed through the bushes, his bag of yam flour slung over his shoulder, trying to find the source of the sound. Suddenly, he stepped into a clearing, and there it was, a market, bright and alive, with stalls glowing faintly in the moonlight. It looked like an ordinary market at first glance, but as he walked closer, Adamu began to notice strange things. The vendors weren't normal. One woman's hair moved like snakes, twisting and curling on its own. Another man, who sat behind a table piled with cola nuts, had no mouth, just smooth blank skin where his lips should have been. The sounds of laughter and chatter filled the air, but they felt distant, almost unreal. The smells of roasted suya, jollof rice, and fried fish wafted toward him, and for a moment, Adamu felt his stomach growl. But his instincts warned him that something wasn't right. He turned to leave, but the path he had taken into the market was gone. In its place was a thick wall of vines, tangled and whispering as though alive. Adamu's heart began to race. He spun around, trying to find another way out, but every corner of the market seemed to pull him deeper in. Just then, a tall figure in a red robe appeared. His face was hidden in shadows, but his voice was deep and commanding. "You cannot leave until you trade," the figure said. Adamu blinked in confusion. "Trade? I don't have money," he stammered. The figure chuckled, a low and unsettling sound. "We don't trade in coins here. We trade in dreams, secrets, and pieces of your soul." Panic set in as the market vendors began to circle him. They shouted strange offers. "Give me your laugh, and I'll show you the way out. Trade your memories, and I'll make you wealthy. Hand over your voice, and you'll never feel pain again." Adamu backed away, his mind racing. Then he remembered something his grandmother had told him when he was a boy. "The spirits only have power if you let them trick you. Be sharp, and they cannot hold you." He cleared his throat, standing tall. "I won't give you anything, but I'll make a deal with you," Adamu said, his voice steady. The vendors paused, intrigued. The tall figure tilted his head, a glimmer of curiosity in his eyes. "What deal?" Adamu took a deep breath and said, "You claim to be clever. If you can stump me with a riddle, I'll give you whatever you want. But if I solve it, you let me go, no tricks, no games." The figure's grin widened. "A riddle, you say? Very well. But beware, for I have many riddles that have broken even the sharpest minds." The spirits gathered, their glowing eyes eager. The figure in red raised his hand, and the air seemed to thicken with anticipation. "Here is your riddle, young one. What has a beginning, but no end? What moves but never walks? What has a heart that doesn't beat?" Adamu closed his eyes, his mind racing. He remembered his grandmother's lessons from when he was a little boy. She used to tell him stories of wise people who faced tricky puzzles, and how, when the time came, they remembered the simple things, the things that were often right in front of them. Suddenly, it hit him. He opened his eyes and smiled. "Time," he said confidently. The figure's eyes flickered, and the market grew deathly silent. The spirits whispered angrily among themselves, but the tall figure in red bowed his head. "You are correct," he said, his voice filled with reluctant admiration. "Time has no end, it moves constantly, and though it has a heart, its pulse is invisible." The spirits grumbled, clearly displeased, but they had no choice. The figure raised his hand again, and the wall of vines parted, revealing the bush path Adamu had come through. "You may go," the figure muttered, his voice dripping with bitterness. "But know this, boy. Next time you may not be so lucky." Adamu didn't need to be told twice. He turned and ran, his heart pounding in his chest, not daring to look back. By the time he made it to the main road, the moon had begun to set, and the early morning light was just beginning to appear. The market was gone, the drumming had stopped, and everything was eerily quiet. When he finally reached home, his mother was waiting for him, concern written all over her face. "Adamu, where have you been? You look like you've seen a ghost." Adamu couldn't help but laugh, still shaken from the encounter. "Something like that," he said, sitting down and wiping the sweat from his brow. From that day on, Adamu never used the bush path again. He made sure to listen carefully to the stories and warnings of the elders, for sometimes the simplest lessons held the most power. And above all, he never forgot his grandmother's words. "Be sharp, and they cannot trick you." Because, sometimes, it's the wisdom of the past that can save you from the dangers of the present. If you enjoyed this story and want more captivating tales, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update.